Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
All right, welcome to this week's edition of Stay Off My Lawn. It is March 25th, 2025, and this is episode 110. Ciento y diez.
Oh, you practiced, so now you're better at it.
Actually, I was trying to do 2025 earlier. It just didn't work out so well. But anyway, we're gonna kick off this week again with our new segment.
It's time for Stupid Holidays of the Week.
And today is International Waffle Day. No, it's not meant to celebrate the people that can't make up their minds about things. It's actually waffles.
Like from the Waffle House.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of waffle,
I love waffles. I don't care for pancakes that much. I ate them a bunch as a kid. Yeah. I am a waffle fan. I'll even put bacon in the batter.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Cook the bacon in. Oh, it's so good that way.
You have a little waffle maker you use?
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Gladys Knight. Remember Gladys Knight and the Pips?
The Pips, yes.
Yeah, she used to have a restaurant in Atlanta. It was on Food Network. And anyway, it was Gladys's Chicken and Waffles, I think it was the name of the restaurant. And man, it was fantastic. We went down there, we ate, and chicken and waffles it's a combination you might not think about, and it's kind of something for people with more melanin than not melatonin. I sleep enough melanin than I do, but it's for everybody. But it was very, very good. Yeah, I enjoyed the chicken and waffles. So if you
tried it once, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, no, I want my waffles. I'll put my syrup and stuff on it with the bacon in it. Yum, yum, yum. I don't want to.
It's that combination of sweet and salty. I think for me, I think that really kind of worked out well. But everything's better with syrup. So I think that's what helped.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that.
Our granddaughters are like dip, 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 dip. So we have to get syrup for them or whatever. It doesn't matter what they're eating. They could be eating marshmallows. Dip, dip. So anyway, lots of food this week. We started off the week Sunday with National Chip and Dip Day, which is one of my favorite things. A little guacamole, a little salsa. I'm good with all that. Yeah. So yesterday, Monday, was National Cheesesteak Day. When I first read it, I thought it was cheesecake. And I was like, it was cheesesteak. So from the city of brotherly love. Yes. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is National Spinach Day. Do you like spinach?
Oh, I used to love spinach as a kid because I used to watch Popeye all the time, and my grandmother would grow a special little section in the huge garden they had by the peach tree. Always had spinach in it for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because I would eat spinach all the time. And funny, when I was doing laundry route stuff, they would call me Popeye because I have kind of large forearms.
I was just actually going to go there. If your goal is to have big forearms, you got to eat spinach, especially when we were kids. That was what it is rich in vitamin K, C, and not sure how all that affects forearm growth. But anyway, those vitamins.
Yeah, and you can save olive oil. So, there's that.
Yeah. And she was one ugly person. So, I mean, obviously your eyesight, it's not very good for your eyesight. Thursday is International Whiskey Day. Strangely attached, and I did a little bit of a deep dive, and I didn't want to spend too much time on this because it was just too weird. But International Whiskey Day is attached to raise awareness for Parkinson's disease. Everybody who drinks, I don't get it. I don't know why that
coincidence.
I don't know why that ties together, but it's like, I think I read somewhere in Ireland, they have these big combination celebration type things. It's like, I have no idea. But anyway, I guess you could celebrate Whiskey Day and be aware of Parkinson's disease if you're not aware of it already, I guess. Anyway, Friday is National Respect Your Cat Day. Seems like that's every day around here. Open a can of white albacore and get those purr motors running if you get a chance today. And finally, Saturday is National Mom and Pop Business Owners Day. So if you know someone who runs a small business, entrepreneurship, my favorite nephew in Florida, I guess I can say that out loud, installs floors and other handyman stuff, works his tail off. He's a great entrepreneur. He's a quick plug for him. If you're in the Central Florida, Northern Florida, Ocala area, go to cmlsflooring.com and hire him to do your stuff. He's got great pictures on social media. He does a great work. So I expect a check in the mail, Jim. Just if you're hearing this, you need to send me something. Anyway, so that's the week in stupid holidays. So what else we got? Chuck Schumer, one of our favorite people on the planet.
Do we have to got Chuck Schumer? What if you don't want Chuck Schumer?
Well, I don't want Chuck Schumer, but I mean, he does have a little bit of a threat for us Republicans.
No! What'll I do? What'll I do?
The vast majority of our listeners are Republican, I would think. But here's Chuck Schumer kind of laying it out for us.
We are mobilizing in New York. We have people going to the Republican districts and going after these Republicans who are voting for this and forcing them to either change their vote or face the consequences. This is a long, relentless fight that we fight every day. And I am confident that we will bring Trump's popularity, numbers, and strength down if we keep at it and keep at it and keep at it.
Well, bring it on.
You need to vote different. See, you gotta push the right button, or else you might have a visitor.
His accent just drives me nuts. It's almost like it's put on, but I know it's not. But it just seems like he's
sounded like that forever. But really, that's what you're going to do. They have no policies. They have nothing to fix, to do anything with. All they can do is Trump, bad man, believe us.
Mm-hmm.
But why is the economy improving? Why is this getting better? How come that's getting better if he's so bad? Well, he just is. Just trust us. Okay.
I think
we did, and we've had 4 years of crap.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the lefties have gone too far. They keep calling him a Nazi. They keep calling Elon a Nazi. It's like it's falling flat anymore. I mean, how much worse can you get than a Nazi? For us Americans, that's the worst of the worst. So I mean, once you go all that way, I mean, how much worse can they call you? What other name can they call you?
I mean, we've been deplorable. We've been, what was somebody else called us something? It's like, whatever.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember what that was.
It doesn't mean anything anymore. And you can just keep do the name calling. You have no policies. No. You have no anything on the horizon that would even be considered a policy that might bring you to the forefront.
Their platform is tampons in men's bathroom, their boys' bathrooms. And it's like... Or men playing in women's sports, or open borders. I mean, it's just not landing anymore.
Yeah, it's not working.
Nope. Even Tim Walz, who never seems to be short on weird things coming out of his mouth, is jumping on the hatred for Elon specifically, and this is what he had to say.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping.
Oh my gosh.
It just went up 20% yesterday.
It sure did.
Thank you for that.
It sure did.
Here's the other thing. He is governor of Minnesota when
he took the words out of my mouth. I love it.
And he's also in charge of their pension plan policies. And guess what? They've got $400 million in Tesla stock. So let's have that drop so their pensions will lower.
His own pension too.
Stupid are you? Yeah. Yes. What part of a moron?
He's trying to walk it back now, and it's not really working. But you're right. I mean, how could you root for something? First of all, as Americans, I don't want any stock to drop. I mean, I just don't. That's just not good for the whole economy. You're talking about he employs a lot of people, and there's a lot of people invested in his stock. Why? How could you root against that as an American? I don't understand that. We're gonna have more on Tampon Tim later, but I think we talked last week about the hatred for Elon, and it seems stronger, even stronger than the hatred for Trump lately. Former Congressman Jamal Bowman, remember, he's the guy who pulled the fire alarm because he didn't want to vote in a congressional
it was
meeting.
an accident.
It was an accident.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. You walked up to it and went, "Oh yeah, fire alarm. That'll stop the vote."
He even tried to say that he didn't understand that it was a fire alarm. He used to be a principal of a high school. You know your fire alarms, stupid. But anyway, yeah. What a maroon. Where is that? I need that one. Hang on. There we go.
What a maroon.
There.
What an ignoramus.
There you go. Ignoramus. But so anyway, he was primaried out last time because of his incompetence and his alignment with AOC in New York. But here's what he had to say on CNN about Elon.
That's not true. And this shows, again, the American people do not trust Elon Musk. And Elon Musk is incompetent in his position. And how do we know? Because they fired tens of thousands of people, it was challenged in court. The court said the people have to go back, and now the people are coming back. He's incompetent. He's a thief. He's a Nazi, and people don't trust him. Period.
I don't like being lumped in that because I'm an American people, and I'm just going to say he's full of it right up to his eyeballs.
Absolutely.
The one that's incompetent is the one who was saying it.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's why he's no longer in he was so incompetent he couldn't even stay in Congress.
No. And even with that big rally he supposedly had there in the Bronx.
There was like 150 people that showed up or something.
They had some camera work that was a little sketchy on that. It made it look like there was more people there than there was. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. But he's terrible. Now Tesla owners are having their own cars vandalized. Dealerships are being firebombed and chargers were set on fire just in the last 2 weeks, I think. There was a lady in Seattle. You and I were talking about this off the air. Most likely a tree-hugging Democrat. I mean, but that doesn't seem to matter anymore. People who buy Teslas, especially 2 or 3 years ago, were doing it because they were worried about the man-made climate change. They believe in all that, just like the Easter Bunny and all that stuff. So,
of which it did nothing for the climate. 500,000 pounds of earth has to be moved to get enough ore and stuff to make one battery.
Yeah, but
500,000.
Those are details they don't want to worry about. And plus, you're killing the poor kids in Congo that are being conscripted.
That are picking up the cobalt and all that. Yep.
Exactly.
But it's good for the environment. Whose environment? Certainly not the countries that are digging the big holes and putting the kids to work down in them picking up the cobalt. That is.
It's toxic. They're not going to live
it's details. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, in Seattle, Fox 13 reported on that on this lady who got pulled over by you'll hear about it. Here you go.
This encounter has left this mother pretty shaken up. She's just grateful that things didn't escalate physically. At the same time, though, she's afraid to drive her car anywhere, as we're seeing a growing number of incidents targeting Tesla owners, not just here locally, but nationwide.
I was thankfully by myself.
Lee was on the way to a doctor's appointment in Linwood Wednesday morning when she says all of a sudden a driver behind her just laid on the horn as they came up to a red light. Things spiraled out of control when a white SUV followed her and cut her off, stopping in the middle of the road.
Gets out and walks straight up to my window. So I crack my window and I said, what is the problem? And he goes, you need to sell your car. This is a Nazi car. You're driving it. You need to sell your car.
Lee says she's been driving a Tesla for the last 2 years. She says a man wearing a camouflage jacket and a ski mask attacked her for it.
It's really sad, that this is what's happening to people who honestly, it doesn't affect how I believe or what I believe. It's just the car I drive. Being in Seattle, climate's important, our footprint's important. This seemed like the right move for our very busy family.
This, however, isn't the first incident or act of vandalism reported. We've seen attack after attack after attack. Teslas set ablaze at the Las Vegas Service Center earlier this week, with the culprit leaving behind the word resist. In Oregon, shots were fired at a dealership, and in Massachusetts, charging stations were torched. These incidents have only intensified since CEO Elon Musk has taken a prominent role in the Trump administration, while slashing government jobs and spending.
Felt so intentional, felt exactly what he was there to do.
There was even a website, now taken down, sharing the personal information of Tesla owners to pressure them to sell their vehicles.
If it was to align with what we thought, that it's easy to just, turn over a $60,000 car and find something new that works. That's not a decision that everybody can make overnight. And I think that puts a lot of us in a hard position.
Now, since May confronted, Lee says that she started taking the highways in order to feel more visible and avoid those back road stop signs. At the same time, though, she also tells me that she's made several reports regarding this incident. We're waiting to hear back if this individual is going to be facing any consequences.
I got to encourage you to do a search for this video and how angry this guy looked. I mean, he had this little mask gator thing on his face and everything, but he pulled over in front of her and stopped the car and then jumped out and was like yelling at her just because she was driving a Tesla. You drive whatever you want. This is America. I mean, I just don't understand the hatred for Elon just because he's now aligned with Trump. I guess that's the whole thing. It's got to be the bottom line.
I mean, somebody who's finding so much fraud. I saw yesterday that they have removed 7 million Social Security numbers that were going to nobody, but someone's cashing checks.
Of course.
So those numbers have been taken off, and they've got more that they're going through and doing the research on to get rid of more. But it's ridiculous. They keep saying, and he's laying all these people off. He's not the one doing it. No. He's just making a report, and Trump's going, "Yay, Rob!"
Yep.
And they're out.
But again, the whole thing, the Democrats of old have all been talking about getting rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse, and finally somebody starts doing it, and they're all like freaking out. So anyway, we're going to have more about Tesla when we come back. We're up against a break. We're actually over the break. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Tesla and how it ties into the transgender movement. You're going to be surprised. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
This is the Stay Off My Lawn show and podcast. The grumpy old men you know and love. We'll be right back.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Sports Fan Face Painter.
Mr. Sports Fan Face Painter.
Unlike Van Gogh or Rembrandt, you use yourself as the canvas. Half yellow, half green, but all heart.
Look at me.
As if weighing 400 pounds didn't call enough attention to yourself, you had to go shirtless and paint yourself bright orange.
I said, look at me.
And you top it all off with a rainbow wig, oversized sunglasses, and absolutely no shame.
No, seriously, I said, look at me.
So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, Mr. Sports Fan Face Painter, and know we'll keep cheering for you until we are orange, purple, or blue in the face.
Mr. Sports Fan
Bud
Face
Light beer at
Painter.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2, and we are moving right along. We're still on the Tesla thing. We've got a few more things to talk about. They've made actually 4 arrests in the Tesla dealership and owners' vandalism cases. And guess what 3 out of the 4 people arrested have in common? Let's see.
I don't know.
They all have left feet, yes. 3 out of the 4 are trans. People identify as trans.
I mean, we're down to 1% of the population now is causing 50% of the.
Yeah, I think it's.
I don't get it.
25% of
no
1%. I mean, I think it's a quarter of 1%. It's very, very small. But yeah, and as a side note, the mass shooter in Denver, Aberdeen, Maryland, Nashville, and Philadelphia all have identified as trans. The one in Colorado Springs called himself non-binary, which is, I think, the same thing. And the one in Iowa identified as gender fluid, which seems like the same thing. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand.
I'm just not, so I don't know. And then there was something about the one in Oregon too that shot the bullets through the windows of the Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
It had an AR-57 that was in the capital of Salem.
Oh boy.
is where that one was. I don't even know if we have just a standalone Tesla dealer in the Treasure Valley in Idaho. I have no idea. Not a car I've looked at buying.
Yeah, me neither. And, the lady was talking about the $60,000 vehicle. I mean, that's why most of us don't have one because, first of all, I don't have $60,000 spent on a vehicle. And second of all, it's like, not only do you spend that kind of money, then you got to spend another $1,000, $1,500 to have the charger installed in your house because that's not just something you plug in the wall. And you could plug it in the wall, but it takes 24 hours to charge and you got to be at work in 18 hours. Ain't going to happen. So anyway, it's just a mess. So I don't know.
I don't understand why they're going at this. They're affecting all the people that build and make the Teslas. It's all USA made stuff.
Yep.
All of the ancillary things like seats and all that kind of stuff that comes from manufacturers in the US. Why are you doing that? It's not going to change a stinking thing. And why are you getting mad at someone who's finding all the waste, fraud, and abuse with our tax dollars? Well, they may not be paying tax dollars because they're probably not employed, but
it's a hard thing to argue with. He's doing a good job. He's not even taking a salary. And I don't even know if the people he's got working for him, the young 20-year-olds or whatever, I don't know if they're taking a salary or not, but it's like they're finding things that's going to save us as a country money. What's wrong with that? I mean, nobody threw a fit when Obama said he was going to do it, which he didn't do it. Bush said he was going to do it. He didn't do it. I think Clinton even said
the only
he was
one that did
do
a bunch of it was Clinton.
He did some? Yeah.
He laid off like 300,000 employees. Did everybody go ape loonies?
No.
Ben on that? No, it was a Democrat doing it, so it's okay.
I know he made huge cuts in the Department of Defense, and which, you can argue whether that was a good idea or not. I think it was a terrible idea. There were other places he could have cut, obviously, what they're finding today. But and I think that kind of set us up for 9/11. Totally other story. But I think that was terrible. But he did balance the budget, which is the first time and only time really in our lifetimes that even happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got to give him credrit for that.
It's stuff that's been talked about. He probably did. No, not probably. He did more than anybody else in our area of, my area of life that I can recall anyway.
Yeah.
But it's this getting after him and the folks that are going in, they keep trying to blame him for laying people off, and then they bring somebody on. Oh, we knew what we were going to work tomorrow, and it's like, you know what? I don't know about you, but a job was never promised to be yours forever.
No. And
I've gotten without a job 3 times or so. So, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been very fortunate. I think I've been unemployed 3 weeks between the time I was 14 and 55. So, I mean, I can't say that I've been down that road because I've never had to collect unemployment or anything. So, I mean, very fortunate. Just because I happen to be in the right place at the right time, it hasn't happened to me. But, I mean, it's just like in the real world, people lose their jobs all the time. And it's not the end of the world. You got to find a new one. But people in the government, like you said, they just thought they had a job for life. And just, especially the ones that have been staying home since 2020, have not decided to go back into work. I mean, it's like there were office buildings that were completely empty.
They were paying $1.2 million on contracts for cleaning buildings that hadn't been used in 3 years.
Yeah. If I was the cleaner, I'd show up and hang out and watch videos on my phone and go home because there's no dirtier than it was last week. So yeah, I mean,
you might have to dust once in a while, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. Just go in there with your Black & Decker blower and just get all the dust off of things. Fixed. Anyway, with this whole trans thing, I mean, I don't understand why they're the one. I guess maybe it's the puberty blockers, the hormone.
It messes with your hormones, and you're not prepared for it, and it seems to make a lot of them very, very angry. And I don't know what it is. All I know is I take as few drugs as is humanely possible. I have one at my age.
Absolutely.
And that's it. That's all the more I take. Besides some vitamins.
And you're going to be 69 this year. So and I'm going to be 61, and I'm grateful. I take an omeprazole every day. That's it. I don't even need that. That's as a precaution. So it's like, but I just think that we are the most drugged population America is by far on the whole planet. And I think I read yesterday that RFK has decided to not allow pharmaceutical companies to run ads anymore on national television.
That was one thing that he was going to be working on, and so it must be something that he's in the midst of now. I mean, they took off alcohol,
cigarettes.
Or no, cigarettes. That's what it was. Cigarettes years and years and years ago. I remember and they're going, oh, no, what are we going to do now without and they just cut it off. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the next thing, because if you're an old folk watching daytime TV, oh, my Lord, it seems like, what disease is that? I've never heard what?
Yeah, we stream everything because we're cheap, and so we have Hulu and Netflix, and we have the package that we actually see commercials. And in Richard and my line of work, we like to hear commercials anyway, just to see what how things are selling. What kind of reads are selling nowadays, and so I like hearing the commercials. But a lot of the commercials are from Pfizer. It's all about the AIDS. New AIDS drugs or new heart medications and all these kind of things. It's like almost half the commercials that I see are either insurance companies or pharmaceuticals. So, I mean, taking all those away, I don't know how that's going to shake out.
Your nightly news brought to you by Pfizer.
That's right. But anyway, don't bring up the whole trans thing that they're the ones who are doing a lot of these weird things because you're a bunch of bigots. That's what the problem is. Anyway, the Democrats are using class warfare. That's the word I was trying to come up with. Again, which is, haves and have-nots. Well, you don't have anything because other people are rich. No, it doesn't work that way. But Bernie Sanders, of course, he goes full propaganda mode with a lot of this stuff. And here he is doing it all over again. It's like deja vu all over again.
Today, we are here to say very loudly and clearly, no, we will not accept an oligarchic form of society where a handful of billionaires run the government. No, we will not accept an authoritarian form of society with a president who undermines the Constitution every day and is working aggressively to take away our freedom of speech and freedom of assembly.
Another guy that is like, it's got to be a put-on accent, but it's not.
No, and it's talk about as the old saying goes, the pot calling the kettle black.
Oh, yeah.
There are more billionaires on the Democratic side that have helped more with their elections than there are on the Republican side.
As a matter of fact, we have a clip from the same lady we had a clip from last week, Batya Ungar Sargon. Which the beauty of her comments here is because she's a former liberal. It wasn't until like 2020 when she decided to kind of like go full on conservative. And anyway, she went on CNN, I think it was. Anyway, fact checking Bernie. And here we go.
There is such an irony to Democrats talking about oligarchy because, of course, for every one billionaire that backed President Trump, Kamala Harris had 2. 9 of the 10 richest counties in America are represented by Democrats. 65% of Americans making over $500,000 a year today are Democrats. 75% of hedge fund managers who make political donations donate to Democrats, and 95% of political donations from the top 3 management consulting firms go to Democrats. Meanwhile, President Trump absolutely crushed with Americans who make under $100,000 a year. The Democrats are the party of the wealthy. And Donald Trump is representing the working class because he simply lifted the pro-worker elements of the Democrats' agenda when they abandoned the working class to cater to their rich base. This is all performance art.
Isn't that something? So when you hear him go,
and Bernie's got to get some extra stuff to the Democrats. I love how she emphasized every time. And Bernie is, he's just scraping by. I mean, he's just an everyday guy with $2 million plus homes is all. Yeah. I mean, he's poor guy.
It's all the oligarchy's fault.
It's like, go ahead, because nowadays that's why the Democrats are losing. So many people are leaving the Democratic Party. I just saw that in the last 2 months or less than 2 months, something like that, the Democratic Party in California has lost over 125,000 people have gone and switched parties to Republican.
Oh, really? Wow.
125,000 of them. This is just silly. It's like, what? You're spewing this stuff. And if somebody doesn't agree with you, do you have the interview where he got up and started to leave?
Bernie?
Bernie, yeah. There was some guy that was interviewing him, and he was asking him about, do you want AOC in the Senate and whatever? And he got PO'd and got up and, if you're just going to talk nonsense, I'm leaving. It's like, what did he say that was nonsense? You guys are trying to push old guys. I don't.
And I thought they were buddies. They were just in Denver together. I mean, that's
so he didn't say anything bad about, nothing bad about Schumer, but didn't want to get into it. I don't know. It's a whole. But they're just being ridiculous. So,
and it's just like you said before. They've got no platform. They've got no direction. They don't even know what they're doing. So
they have nothing to fix anything with. All they're doing is complaining about what's happening, and they're running out of funds because, all their slush fund, and they just had another building that somebody was trying to get into the U.S.
what? Yeah, I looked that up. It was I can't remember now.
Peace something USIP U.S. International Peace something. I think something like that, or International Peace Institute, whatever. I think it was USPI is what it was.
Something like that.
Anyhow, they had their own security, not allowing Doge folks to get into the building. Well, guess what? They go, okay, they would not allow them to come in. Next day, they showed up with the FBI with them, and they were still not going to allow them in. Oh, it didn't take long. They were in the building, and the manager of that, which was, they had like over $250,000 budget or something that they were doling out funds here, there, and everywhere else. The manager was arrested. Because this is a federal building. This is not your private business.
That's the thing. It's like a lot of USAID companies. That was the same thing. It's like, well, we're independent. No, you're not. Your funding is 100% from taxpayers. You answer to the federal government. It's the U.S. Institute of Peace. The board members,
USIP.
The board members were all removed and installed new leadership under Trump, and they hope to reshape the agency's involvement in foreign assistance work. So,
it's just ridiculous. And they're seeing how some of these, it's like, it's going to what? Well, if you follow the money, it goes around, and the money that supposedly Soros gave to a lot of the almost $250 million for the last election, all came from USAID. We used our own tax money to pay for an outsider to pay for Democrats. Wait a minute. That's not how it's supposed to work. And then they tried to say, it's just small donations from around the country. No, it's not. No, it came from different segments of USAID.
I know. But, whenever they come out and accuse the Republicans of something like that, normally
that's what they did.
Normally they're the ones who are guilty of it. So we are actually up against another break because we are going to, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Tampon Tim. He's put his foot in his mouth again. He's got like foot and mouth disease. So hang in there. We will be right back.
Hey, this is Kendra Rains, and I love these two old guys. That's why I listen to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. And you should too.
I'll be here to hear what's on your mind.
As an adult, kids want to know you're listening to them, but they also want to listen to you. When it comes to alcohol, they want to know your expectations and how and why to avoid underage drinking. Talking early and often about it in everyday conversations reinforces your message and keeps lines of communication open. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I'll be by your side.
I did stop it.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3. And as we've spoken before, if someone is a good person, the last thing they have to do is tell you, hey, just so you know, I'm a good person. Normally that's a big red flag. It's same with like military people or firefighters or whatever. If they're truly heroic, they don't have to tell you anything.
Nope.
I know Richard and I have probably had family members, lots of family members come back from Vietnam. And the last thing they want to do is tell you about their experiences in Vietnam because it can be ugly and nobody wants to. And normally truly heroic people don't want to brag on themselves. Truly tough guys. When I was out in Denver, I was in a bar fight one time, one of the only bar fights I've ever been in. But it was with a bunch of bikers and us military guys. And it's like, holy crap, it escalated very quickly. Well, there was this guy that was probably about 5'1". He was from Maine. And this big biker, came over and is like, he grabbed this guy and ran his knee straight into his face and beat up another guy as soon as that happened. And we all said, guy's name was Rennie. It was spelled like Renee, but he called it Rennie. But he was like the baddest dude I had ever been around. But you'd never know it. He never told us that he had a lot of experience doing this, which he obviously did. But he gave us enough time, and we all just ran out of there and got in our cars and came home. But it's like, holy cow, thank God Rennie was there. But he never bragged about that he was a Golden Gloves champion or whatever he was. The guy was like incredible. So keep that in mind for a minute. Tampon Tim was on Gavin Newsom's, and you may have heard some of this, Gavin Newsom's podcast. Now, how Gavin Newsom has the time to do a podcast and be governor, I have no idea.
If you watch any of it, watch his hand motions.
Oh, I saw that.
Just ridiculous where he's trying to convince you that you're gonna, and it's like, what in the hell are you
kind of doing this whole thing like he's dancing? It's like, what are you doing?
Chair dancing.
You got to find that video. Richard, you're absolutely right. You got to find that video because it's really, and they were talking about manhood at the same time, which is like, okay. Anyway.
That ain't it. I know it when I see it, and that ain't it.
That is not what I had in mind at all. Anyway, he was on the podcast last week, and I think his feelings got hurt. Tampon Tim did when somebody has questioned his masculinity. But the subject of his masculinity, it was brought up by the mainstream media. It wasn't the Republicans at all. We didn't draw first blood on this, but the media and Nancy Pelosi had this to say during the campaign.
What do you hope the American public sees about who he is as a human being?
Well, he's the all-American man. He's just fabulous. Walz has, certainly many stereotypically masculine qualities, but he's also demonstrated with his family this value in showing his emotions.
Sergeant Major Walz is the kind of man's man that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump pretend to be.
To watch the men of the Democratic Party model a kind of masculinity that is simply 21st century masculinity.
Male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy.
Doug Emhoff, that's going to be in that mix.
Wow. That's
oh my gosh.
Okay, you named some real good ones there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So on Newsom's podcast, Tim whined a little bit. So here we go.
It just baffled me how much time they spent trying to attack me that I wasn't like masculine enough in their vision. Yes. Like I would have never believed this. I saw Fox News did like a couple days because I used a straw. And I'm like, hell, man, what am I? How else do you drink a milkshake type of thing? But they focused on it obsessively, which I think, again, is their obsession, their weirdness. We buy their frame on these issues of sexuality, but their whole thing is that they spent all their time, these guys on Fox News, that Walz is gay, he's not masculine, he doesn't coach football the way he should.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not the nomenclature that I would associate with Tim Walz. I mean, he's a year younger than I am, thank God. Which is like,
God,
whatever.
he looks like an antique. Good Lord. He is not in good shape. And did you have something where someone said, look at how he comes out on stage?
Oh,
do you have a clip?
Yes, I do.
Well, I won't. I won't give that one away since I already have.
Yeah. Remember we said you don't have to tell people what kind of person you are? Well, apparently, because no one believed Tim and all his buddies in the media that he's so masculine, he kind of overcorrected with this statement.
What do you think about this? I mean,
it's
this misogyny in here that's happening.
Yeah, well, but this notion of masculinity is deeply part of it. That's one of the. I mean, I think it goes. And you can look at the reasons why we've had this sort of dialectic over the Me Too movement. We've had this dialectic even prior to the Me Too movement. This
How
notion
do you fight it?
And well, this notion
I think
of
I could kick most of their ass. I do think that.
Again, bring it on. He's so intimidating.
And the two of them are not helping each other at all.
Like you said, Gavin's doing this whole moving the arms back and forth.
He's doing his chair dancing.
Oh my God.
Life is a cabaret. I don't know what he's doing, but
if you know who Kane is ex-WWE wrestler. He's a 7 foot tall, 280 pound mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, Glenn Jacobson. He seems like a kind of guy that might represent classic masculinity. And he seems like a very good guy too. I mean, but he had actually this as a retort to Tim Kaine.
Well, what Governor Walz said was completely inappropriate and it needed to be called out. Obviously, the Democrats realized that in catering to the far left wing of their party, they have created a masculinity problem for themselves, which shouldn't come as a surprise. After all, they've been preaching for years that there's no difference between men and women. However, they believe that masculinity means that you get on TV and you talk tough and you drop the occasional curse word and you go out, and apparently being strong means that you burn down Tesla dealerships, which obviously that is not what being masculine or being tough is all about. In fact, they just look like petulant, spoiled little brats.
He put that so perfectly.
Just because you can throw a Molotov cocktail doesn't make you a man.
I really think that they do have an identity problem as far as what manliness is. Like I said, if the mainstream media believes that Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz are the masculine men that young men should look up to and try to emulate as they get older, I mean, is this really getting heard? I mean, is this something that is taken? I don't know. I just don't understand how it can get any tread.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to get into it because it's digging in the weeds. It's not fun. There's icky bugs and it's swampy. It's come on. We were talking about if you're somebody that's in the military and you're a SEAL, and if someone wants to tell you that they're a SEAL, chances are they might not be, or they were in the office, or that's not. I've known a lot of SEALs, and you wouldn't even know it. No. They don't talk about it. No. You don't hear anything about it. You don't know anything about it. So it's you don't have to if you are or you aren't.
And that one lady referred to him as Sergeant Major Walz, and it's like, first of all, he never really truly held that title. Second of all, he never went to combat.
Would have if he'd went overseas,
exactly.
But I've got to go not just march in a circle and around town. I've got to go. Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to retire. I don't want to go do that.
I'll get a bowl of spaghetti in Italy while I'm over there, but that's about as far as I want to get. Gutfeld had a great time with this. They said that Alec Baldwin had more kills than Tim Walz.
I know.
Oh my goodness!
It was like, that's hitting a little low.
They did have, that's where I got the clip from. That's why you hear those ladies laughing in the background, because it's like the way Gavin Newsom is talking. It's like, talk about masculine. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Donald Trump Jr., this guy is like, he's got a future as a stand-up comedian or a politician. I think that's probably where he's leaning towards. But he was on some podcast or something the other day, and he talked about Tim Walz and his masculine features.
And he's like, the whole quote was like, MAGA's intimidated by masculinity. I'm like, have you ever watched this guy get on a stage? I'm like, it's like the opening scene of The Nutcracker. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I was like, I don't know. I've never seen a wrist so limp. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I'm like, that was the left's idea of masculine. And so they're trying to push this on people who are actually masculine, or at least not totally effeminate. Yeah. And like, people are like, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. And he's still running with it. You saw it this week. He's like, I could beat the hell out of every MAGA Republican. I'm like, just stop. Yeah. By the way, the number one sign of not being all that masculine is like talking about how masculine you actually are, right?
It's
so
like funny.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Yes, that doesn't, just because you tell somebody you are, doesn't mean you are.
Exactly. It's embarrassing is what it is. I thankfully I don't belong to that party, because I'd be even more embarrassed. But I'm embarrassed just to share human DNA with this guy. It's terrible.
What's the old saying? Me doth think you protest
too much. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's like whenever anybody brags on themselves, it's always a red flag to me. It's like, if you're good at something, you don't have to brag on yourself. You don't have to do any of that. I'm the best musician in the tri-state area. It's like, nobody says that kind of thing. If they do, they're a terrible musician. I mean, just bank on that. I don't know. It's just, masculinity is just certainly not what it used to be. And I think I told you once before that, it's like, I think it was somebody Chris was dating at the time. It's like, you've taught him to be toxically masculine or whatever, because it's like whenever he runs across somebody who's like a flaming, it's like he kind of makes fun of it. And it's like, okay, so she called that toxic masculinity. Okay. Well,
Lord.
I don't think that's necessarily toxic. I mean, it's just like when you like Donald Trump Jr., it's like the beginning of the Nutcracker. It's like men don't normally act like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you have to, it's the same way on the other side. If you have to make sure you tell me 4 or 5 times that you're gay, I really don't care.
Exactly.
If you're a good person, 2 of the best neighbors I ever had were a gay couple living next door when we were in Oregon. They were fantastic. I met a lot of wonderful gay people in all the 40 plus theater shows that I've been on stage in. They're fine. They don't seem to tell you in those settings that they are or they aren't, and I don't care.
Yeah.
They know I'm not, and it doesn't matter.
There's a guy I used to work with. I saw him actually about 2 weeks ago, and he's always been gay. Everybody's always known it. It's no big deal. I mean, we both were retired. We stood there and talked 20 minutes, and nothing like that ever came up. He's a little older than I am, but it's like, we get along just fine. And that, I think that people on the other side don't see those kind of things. And they think that we just hate everybody that's not just exactly like us. And it's like, and that's just not the case. I don't know anybody that's a Republican or a conservative that hates gay people. I don't know anybody, or hates black people, or hates Hispanics. Hatred is not a core value of conservatives. It's just not.
No, I don't have the time for that. Too busy doing other things.
Yeah. Hatred is just not, it's not part of who I am anyway. I might hate you for a split second if you pull out in front of me because you're looking at your phone. I might hate you for a second. But I mean,
there might be some road talk inside my heart.
Yeah.
We'll call it that, road talk.
There might be some words spilling out of my mouth, but it's normally only when I'm by myself. Anyway, we, you know what? It's a little bit early for a break, but we're going to do this because when we come back, we're going to hear from Joe Rogan. He asked a good question about the the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, where Trump got shot, and of course the other people that got shot. It's an interesting thing. So hang in there. We will be right back.
You know, I love the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. In fact, everyone loves it. You know why? Because they're well-informed and make me laugh. It's a winning combination, and I know all about winning combinations.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4. We are
woohoo! Almost time for me to eat.
Got my shoes on. I'm ready to go.
Short timers.
You can file this one under things that make you go,
Boy, we've been having a lot of that lately.
We have.
That file's almost stuffed.
I can't get it back in the drawer anymore. And Joe Rogan was talking to someone the other day. I don't know who it was. It seemed like it was Elon, but it seemed like that was the voice I heard on here. But anyway, he was talking about the Butler, Pennsylvania rally where the attempted assassination took place. And of course, a couple of people got shot. One guy died, which was a terrible tragedy. But there was some things that doesn't really add up. Here's how he described it.
What we know is you have a very young kid who was filmed. They knew he was there with a rangefinder a half an hour before the event. You also know that CNN streamed it live, which I do not believe they did for any other rally, and certainly not for a rally that's in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. Like, there's a lot of weird shit. The fact that they wouldn't let people be on that roof because the Secret Service lady said it was sloped and it was dangerous. That's what she'd want to have. Meanwhile, the snipers that were on the other roof was a steeper pitch. It made no fucking sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that don't make any sense with all that. I don't know.
Yes, the old because CNN they want nothing to do with Trump. They were not going to promote him. They might have a little clip here and there from a rally, but nothing was ever streamed live as it was happening. So they were not going to give him the satisfaction of doing that.
Why would they there if they didn't have some kind of insight that something might happen? I mean, that's the best explanation I can come up with is they heard rumblings from underground sources that said that there's going to be something might happen here.
Well, did you see while he was giving his speech, there was a lady behind him and she was smirking as he was getting started, and she pulls her phone up to, film him from behind with a smirk on her face. And it's like, who is she and why is she where she's at? And it's somebody who could have been media, who knows what, but I've still never heard who the hell that was, because that was really suspect.
I didn't even think of that, but that should be looked into. You're absolutely right, but she looked way too happy and wanted to and film him from behind. That doesn't make any sense anyway. And she was not too far from the guy that got shot and killed. She was only a few seats away, so. I don't know. Why would they stream that for a rally that happened in rural Pennsylvania? It's too many questions, not enough answers. Again, So anyway, there seems to be some disagreement within Canada's political infrastructure.
Some disagreement. Do you know that they have, speaking of tariffs that we did earlier, do you know that they have tariffs between provinces?
Yeah, it seems like I read that last week.
Isn't that the dumbest thing? If you're taking something, say, from British Columbia, you go into Alberta, you pay a tariff. You go out the other side of Alberta into Saskatchewan, you pay another tariff to move stuff within the same flipping country.
Do they have like border patrol between the provinces?
I have no idea how it works. I mean, they're obviously they don't have bazillions of roads going across.
Oh, that's true too.
You have mountains and other things, but once you get to Saskatchewan, it's just
flat, right? I mean,
it's a flat rock, man.
Yeah, it's that is weird though. I mean, how would they know? I mean, how do they keep up with that? I guess if you just have you have to file everything. They have to know everything about you.
Yeah, you're going from here to there. You pay a tariff when you go in there. You pay a tariff when you go in there, and then you go from that into Manitoba. You pay another tariff. Say you're taking it to Winnipeg. So,
just nuts. But the Alberta Premier, Danielle Smith, she's not having any of it. She kind of thumbed her nose at the country's leadership in a speech she gave the other day, and this is it.
I would certainly hope that the new Prime Minister has taken the time to read our Constitution, and I would direct him to pay specific attention to Section 92A, which gives the province, not the federal government, the exclusive jurisdiction over non-renewable natural resource development. Alberta will continue in its pursuit of doubling our oil and gas production to meet the growing global demand for energy. And we will not let Ottawa stand in our way. We will not tolerate the continuous unconstitutional overreaches made by the federal Liberal government. Measures like the emissions cap, the net zero electricity regs, the net zero electric vehicle mandate, and the energy industry advertising ban must be stopped now. And make no mistake, Alberta will do whatever it takes to shield our economy from the Liberals' growth-killing lunacy. These amendments we're introducing today would include denying federal workers access to our facilities and the information they contain. I will continue to fiercely and unapologetically stand up for Albertans and defend the best interest of our province, our economy, and our industry. This ongoing tariff dispute has proven now more than ever that Canada must build big and build fast to reach new global markets for export. Canadians and politicians from across the country are calling for new pipelines to be built, east, west, and north, to secure our future and end our reliance upon our southern trading partner. However, if the new Prime Minister wants to resume an old fight, well, we will. We'll fight tooth and nail. Because if we can't make these decisions and build, then it's so obvious, when it's so obviously in the national interest, then what kind of an economic future does Canada have? Today's amendments are a warning, but they're also an invitation to Ottawa. Let's talk. Let's rise to the occasion. Let's use Canada's riches to protect our nation.
Well, I mean, I like how she talks. Now, our friend Corey, is he from Calgary? Where's he from?
He is from Calgary now. He used to live in Edmonton, way the hell up there. Yeah. I mean, they only have like, two big cities and a couple of smaller ones that are decent size.
I think all the plains provinces are kind of like that.
But this is the problem. The same, we have the same problem here. Is folks back east go, oh, well, this is in your state, so it's not that far away. Have you looked at a map? I mean, Georgia's huge as well, and Idaho, to drive from where I'm at on the far western side of Idaho all the way across to the eastern side of Idaho might take me 6.5, 7 hours to get there. I'm still in Idaho. You want to go up north? Again, 5.5, 6.5 hours all the way to the border. You're looking at 7.5, 8 hours from where I am all the way to the Canadian border. It's a long, and I'm still in the same state, never left it.
Yeah, your state is longer than ours because we're talking about going to an event in Savannah this weekend, and from here, if Atlanta traffic is not bad, we can make Savannah in about 4 hours. That's still a long drive. I mean, it's 4 hours is when you and I meet in June. It's going to be about 4 hours for us to get to North Carolina.
You're about 5 hours. By the way, it's 5 hours and 20 minutes for both of us. From where I'm coming from.
I know when I used to go to the studio in Charlotte, it was about 4.5. but this is a little bit further than all that.
Yeah. So it's just they don't understand the distance, and there's not a lot in between sometimes. When we bought the car in 2020 and drove it back from Virginia Beach from buying it from the kids, I'd never been across the middle of the state. I mean, literally, you go past the INEL, the reactor that's out in the middle of nothing, and there isn't anything out there. It's all just sagebrush, and there are no little towns. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just sit there and drive on a flat, and the sagebrush, if the wind's blowing, by the way, doesn't slow it down a lot.
Yeah. I had to drop off a friend in Toledo, Ohio in 1984, I think it was. And we drove from Denver to Toledo, and we went through Nebraska and Iowa, and it's just nothing but corn and fat girls back then. I mean, it was... It was just odd that, you just had this in Florida, we had towns every 15, 20 miles. There was something to go through. Yeah. But man, it's like when we were going down the interstate, there was nothing for hours, nothing but corn. I mean, it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But it was,
they don't understand that. And it's the same way in Canada, the Eastern, they just treat them like dirt. Well, guess where? They're pumping out all the oil and stuff in Alberta, and then they're sending the money in that's supporting these other provinces and big cities back there.
And they're still treated like redheaded stepchildren. And
it's like, why don't you just kick that golden goose a couple more times and see if you can get another egg out of them?
I think Canada has the same kind of problem we have, is that the center of the country is more like more conservative, because that's where all the work gets done. The farmers and people that actually work for a living. And then you got the elitists that live in Ottawa and Toronto. And then you got on the West Coast, you've got Vancouver and all the people that, that's big city stuff out there. So the middle of the country gets forgotten. Same here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I used to, I still do, follow some farmers in Saskatchewan, and they're out there. I mean, I've seen some big grain areas, but they took a video in a 360 from where they were doing the grain. There was nothing, not a house, not a tree, nothing but wheat fields. So there's a whole lot of holy moly's out there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What a week this has been.
I know it has. It really has. We need a good rest of the story. And this one's about a certain kind of vermin that the colonists had to put up with back in the day.
Now, the rest of the story. If there is a stain on the record of our forefathers, one dark hour in the earliest history of the American colonies, it would be the burning of the so-called witches at Salem. But that was a pinpoint in place and time. That was a very brief lapse into hysteria. For the most part, our 17th century colonists were scrupulously fair, even in fear. And there was one group of people they feared with reason. A society, you might say, whose often insidious craft had claimed a multitude of victims, even since the Middle Ages in Europe. One group of people hated and feared from Massachusetts Bay to Virginia. The magistrates would not burn them at the stake, although surely a great many of the colonists might have recommended such a solution. But this one group of people remained hated perhaps more than any other in our earliest American colonies. In the first place, our forefathers were baffled by them. Where did they come from? Of all who had sailed from England to Plymouth in 1620, not one of those two-legged vermin was aboard. That's right, vermin. That's what the colonists called them. Parasites who fed on human misery. That's what the colonists called them. Spreading sorrow and confusion wherever they went. Destructive. That's what the colonists called them. And still they were permitted to coexist with the colonists for a while. Of course, there were colonial laws prohibiting the practice of their infamous craft, and somehow a way was always found around the laws. In 1641, Massachusetts Bay Colony took a novel approach to the problem. The governors attempted to starve these devils out of existence through economic exclusion. They were denied wages. Thereby it was hoped that they would perish. 4 years later, Virginia followed the example of Massachusetts Bay, and for a while it seemed that the dilemma was resolved, but it was not. Somehow the parasites managed to survive, and the mere nearness of them made the colonists' skin crawl. In 1658 in Virginia, the final solution: banishment, exile. The treacherous ones, I'm quoting, the treacherous ones were cast out of the colony. And at long last, after decades of enduring the psychological gloom, the sun came out, and the birds sang, and all was right with the world. That elation continued for but one generation. I am not sure why the Virginians eventually allowed the outcasts to return, but they did. In 1680, after 22 years, the despised ones were readmitted to the colony on the condition that they be subjected to the strictest surveillance. Ah, how soon we forget. For indeed, over the next half-century or so, the imposed restrictions were slowly, quietly swept away, and those whose treachery had been feared since the Middle Ages ultimately took their place in society. Vermin is what they had been called. Parasites is what they had been called. Destructive is what they had been called. But these, the vermin that once infested colonial America, the parasites that preyed on the misfortune of their neighbors, until finally they were officially banished from Virginia, those dreaded, despised, inevitably outcast masters of confusion were lawyers. And now you know the rest of the story.
Oh, boy. Well, that was a surprise for me. I wasn't sure what he was talking about.
It was like, what are they practicing? They're practicing law and trying to screw people over. So.
Exactly. Just like today. We hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Rumble, Amazon Smart Speaker, and all those places. So...
and you'll find us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. Enjoy us on your drive home. You can get the apps for Apple and Android, or you know what? Just go to our good old website of StayOffMyLawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
And we will see you next week, folks.
Toodles, thanks again so much for listening, folks. We appreciate each and every one of you. Bye. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.